Hello, 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 everybody. How are you guys doing? Welcome to the Wealthy Trustee webinar. How is everyone? Can you guys hear me?
We're doing good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. Nice to meet you.
Great. Good to see you.
All right, nice to see you. Okay, so we're just gonna dive right in. So I do have a short little presentation for you guys for today. So today we're gonna be talking about how to build wealth the right way because a lot of us we are using the language of building generational wealth, but what we're doing is we're just making money, right? We're not actually building the wealth so that it can last the second and third and fourth and eons generation. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to teach you guys the one-on-one on what a trust is and how to actually create it. Okay, so it's going to be short, sweet, and to the point. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Christina Yvette. I am the founder of 7 Ways to Wealth, and I am a trust strategist. I have been a trustee for 10 years now, so an entire decade. And so I have taught thousands of people how to set up trust so that they can protect their assets. So my mission here on earth is to help people prepare for that wealth transfer. So with that being said, that's why I'm going to come and teach you guys the different steps that you need to take in order to create that trust estate so that you can protect your assets, okay? So I'm 35 years old. I'm a mother of three, and how I got started in trust was it's kind of a long story, but I'm gonna make it short and sweet. So I was actually a registered nurse and I was knee deep in the rat race. So I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was frustrated because I was a new mom too. So I was a new nurse, new mom. I actually was pregnant in college. And so my parents are like, we'll take care of your baby so that you can finish college and you can go, start working. So when I started working as a nurse, I was working in a hospital that was short staff. And so they had me working 12-hour shifts, 6, 7 days a week. And it was exhausting. And by the first year, I was burnt out. So I end up looking for different ways on how I could supplement my income so that I didn't have to work so hard and so that I could actually buy back my time and spend time with my baby. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going to a seminar, and in that seminar they taught me about real estate investing. And so I learned how to flip houses. And so 6 months after that seminar, I ended up buying my first property and I bought it with zero of my own money. So it was a little 2 bedroom, 1 bath house in North Miami Beach, and it was a rundown little house. And so my hard money lender, which was the person who gave me the money to buy the house, he was my mentor. And so when I bought this property, he told me you need to put that property into a trust. So at that point, I had it in an LLC. And he said you need to put that property into a trust. So he taught me how to set up my trust. And it made me dive deep, deep, deep into trusteeship. And the reason why I set up that trust is because I wanted to protect that property because that was my first property. I was young, I was 25, I didn't know what I was doing, and the house was being renovated. So that was a liability just on its own. And a lot of people they think that, oh, the LLC is the end all be all, but it really isn't. It's not the end all be all because with an LLC, you still have liability over that LLC. So that's why I had to transfer that property from an LLC into the trust. Because if somebody slip and fell, then they were going to take their property from me, and I could not allow that to happen. So with that being said, I end up putting that property into a trust, and I have been operating in trustee ever since. So now, what I want to do is I'll go ahead and pull up my slides here, and I want to go ahead and dive into, the different dynamics of what a trust can do for you, right? So let's talk about what a trust is and how powerful this tool is so that it can actually help you, in the long run. So allow me one moment here. All right, so here are my slides. So let's talk about what an actual trust entity is, because a lot of us, we hear the term trust, but we really don't know what it is, right? And so we hear trust fund, we hear all these different things, right? So what I want you to know is that a trust is an entity, right? And it is a living, breathing entity just like you. So you are an entity as well. You are a living, breathing entity. So that means that a trust can do anything and everything that you can do. So if you can go ahead and build credit, a trust can build credit. If you could buy a house, a trust could buy a house. So whatever it is that you can do, that trust can do as well. Now, how do you actually create this entity, right? This entity is actually created by way of a contract. So that means that you have to actually create this contract. You got to set it up, and then you got to legalize the contract so that you can create the entity so that you can operate a trust. Okay. So now that we know that this entity actually comes into existence by way of a contract, there's two parts to the contract that I want you to understand. The first one is the indenture, which is the rules and regulations that you are going to set forth in the trust that the trustee has to follow. And the next one is the declaration, where you're declaring that it is a trust and that it is not anything else like an LLC or a corporation. Okay. Now, with the trust entity, remember we said that there's different parties, right? So this is a contract that you're setting up. There's different parties to the contract. So who are the parties involved in this contract? Well, you have your grantor, which is the creator of the trust, okay? So the creator, sometimes you can hear the word settlor or trustor when you are doing your research about trust. Now, with the settlor or the grantor, they are the creator of the trust, and they are responsible not only for legalizing the trust, but for also putting the first asset inside of the trust, okay? Next, you have the trustee. The trustee is the controller of the trust. So that's the person who is going to be operating this trust on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So it's extremely important that this person is able to follow the bylaws and the provisions that are set forth in the contract. Okay. So that contract is going to tell them pretty much everything that they can do for the trust. Okay, so if you need to sign on behalf of the trust, that's the trustee that does it. The next party is the beneficiary. So the beneficiaries are the inheritors of the trust. Those are the individuals that are going to be receiving the assets that are inside of the trust. Okay, so the assets that are inside the trust are owned by the trust. Eventually, when the trust is terminated, those assets are going to be transferred to the beneficiaries. Now, there's different types of trust, okay? So tonight, what I want to do is I just want to tell you some categories that trusts fall under. So the first category that I want to tell you guys about is express versus implied. An express trust is a written trust. So that means that we had a verbal agreement and that we actually transferred it on paper in black and white in a contract, something physical that you can touch, okay? And then you have an implied trust, which is a verbal agreement. So that means it's oral, and that means that there is no physical contract that's associated with it. The next category I want to tell you guys about is simple versus complex. So a simple trust is shorter in nature. So because it's shorter in nature, that means it has less provisions. And with a simple trust, the trustee has to distribute all of the money that's inside of the trust. Well, the complex trust is longer in nature. That means that there's more rules, regulations, terms, conditions, provisions, all of those things that are inside of the trust. And the trustee is not required to distribute all the money that's inside of the trust. The next one that I want to tell you guys about is discretionary versus non-discretionary. So with a discretionary trust, that means that the trustee has the full discretion to be able to make decisions for the trust that are not inside of the contract. And non-discretionary is the total opposite, which means that the trustee cannot make decisions for the trust that are not inside of the contract. Next, you have statutory versus non-statutory. So every single state has its own statutes, which are laws, right? And so with a statutory trust, it means that all of those state statutes are embedded inside of the contract, which means that that trust is actually limited to where it can only be utilized in that one state where it was set up, right? Versus non-statutory. So non-statutory, what we're saying here is that the state statutes and codes are not embedded inside of the contract, which means that you have the flexibility to use it in the entire nation versus just in the one state where you set it up. The last category that I want to tell you guys about is revocable versus irrevocable. So with a revocable trust, whenever we're talking about what we call revocability, we are talking about the grantor, okay? Remember, there are several different parties inside of the contract. So the grantor has revocability or irrevocability. So if we're talking about a revocable trust, usually typically the grantor and the trustee are the same person. And the grantor has revocability. That means that they can revoke the trust. That means that they can revoke assets inside of the trust. They can remove trustees and beneficiaries if they would like. They can make changes to the trust, okay? Any type of amendment. And because they have all of that flexibility, the assets that you place inside of a revocable trust are not protected, unfortunately. So a revocable trust can only help you avoid probate, but it will not fully protect your assets. So that means that creditors and people that are coming after the grantor or the trustee can actually penetrate through that revocable trust, right? So if that trust was to end up in court, then the judge would decide to pierce through the trust, and the trust will become what we call public records, where everyone is able to see every single page of the trust, who the beneficiaries are, what the net worth of the trust is, and what assets you have inside of the trust. Now, on the contrary to that, we have irrevocable. So an irrevocable trust is where the grantor and the trustee are not the same person. So the grantor has irrevocability. That means that the grantor cannot make any amendments or changes. They cannot take any assets that they place into the trust. They cannot remove trustees or beneficiaries, okay? So they cannot do any of those things. And even if they wanted to terminate the trust, they can't terminate the trust, okay? So because the contract is irrevocable in nature, if anyone were to try to come after the trust, meaning any creditors, or if there were any litigation or anything like that, they cannot penetrate through the trust. So your assets are fully protected with an irrevocable trust. So if it was to end up in litigation, the judge will not pierce through an irrevocable trust, which means that your trust is going to remain private. It's going to remain intact. It's not going to end up on the public records. So no one is going to be able to see the net worth, the assets, the beneficiaries, and so on. All right. So now that we know some different categories of trust, let me give you the steps that you need to take in order to actually create a trust, okay? So step one is that you need to determine the type of trust that you want to create. So what do we mean by this? Well, when you are doing your due diligence and your research, you need to actually figure out what type of trust do I want to create. Now, I just gave you guys different categories of what every trust falls under. So the trust that I recommend, which is the trust that what we call is a bulletproof trust, is first a trust that is express, a trust that is complex in nature, a trust that is non-statutory, and a trust that is fully discretionary. And the last category is a trust that is irrevocable. So that is the trust that is going to be impenetrable and no one can come after your assets. Okay, so that's the type of trust that you really want, but do your due diligence, do your research. Okay, now now that you have decided the type of trust that you want to create, next thing you need to do is you need to name the trust. So what are you going to name the trust? Well, you can name the trust anything that you want, but there's two mistakes that I need you to avoid. The first mistake is naming the trust after yourself. That's the mistake that I see everyone in society make, where if your name is John Smith, then you name the trust the John Smith Trust. That is a dead giveaway that you're associated with the trust. And so you don't want people to know that you're associated with the trust. So please do not name the trust after yourself, okay? You want to have unique, different names that are not associated with you, like Butterfly Estate, right? Butterfly Estate is nowhere, associated with John Smith, okay? So just keep that in mind. And the next thing that I need you to do is avoid using the word trust in the name as well. So you do not have to have the name of your trust end in the word trust. It's not an LLC, it's not a corporation, okay? So you want people's minds to wonder, and you don't want it to be a dead giveaway to where they automatically know it's a trust, okay? All right, so now that we've talked about naming the trust, let's talk about the different parties that you have to appoint. So remember, we said you have to appoint a grantor. Now, if you are if you are creating an irrevocable trust, that means that your grantor and your trustee cannot be the same person. So you have to choose one of those positions. You're either going to be the grantor or the trustee. I recommend that you be the trustee so that you can have full control over the assets that are inside of the trust, okay? So go ahead and appoint your grantor, go ahead and appoint your trustee, go ahead and appoint your beneficiaries. Your beneficiaries can be entities, and they could also be natural people like your children. So those are your children, your next of kin, whoever you want to receive the assets that you place inside of the trust. And then the last person that you're going to appoint is your successor trustee. So your successor trustee is the person who's going to take over after you in the event that something happens to you. Meaning that if you don't wake up tomorrow, if you become incapacitated, or if you decide, hey, I don't want to run this trust anymore, I'm going to resign, then the successor picks up where you left off. The next one is to actually create the trust contract. So you got to go ahead and create that agreement so that you are able to put the rules and regulations, or what we call provisions. So one of the key provisions that we put are spendthrift provisions, meaning that we're going to restrict how the beneficiaries get to actually spend the money. That is you putting yourself in a position to where you're controlling the money from the grave. That's exactly what you want to do if you're intentional about building a legacy, okay? And so sometimes we'll put an age restriction so that the beneficiaries receive a level of maturity before they can start receiving these distributions from the trust. Or we can put an education restriction, or we can put a bloodline a restriction. So there's so many different provisions that you want to put inside of your trust in order for it to actually last the many generations that it needs to last, okay? Because one thing about these people that receive an inheritance is that they blow it right away. So you don't want that to happen, and that's why you want to have a trust so that you're able to put all of those provisions in there so that the money can be preserved per generation, okay? So after you're done setting up your trust, then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and notarize the trust, right? So that means that the trust is going to require two signatures, one signature from the grantor, one signature from the trustee, and then those signatures are going to be witnessed by a notary public. They're going to sign, seal. Once the trust is notarized, it is fully legal and you are able to operate that trust right away. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and open up that bank account, okay? So there's two things that you need when you're ready to open up the bank account. The first thing that you need is an EIN number with the IRS. So you're going to go down to the IRS, you're going to get your employer identification number, which is a 9-digit number that they issue specifically to your trust entities for banking purposes, okay? So you're going to bring that with you along with the certificate of trust. Now, I know you're wondering what a certificate of trust is, right? Well, a certificate of trust is proof of identity that the trust exists. So, just like how you walk around with a driver's license, the trust also needs to walk around with a driver's license. So, it's just one sheet where it's a summary of all of the details of the trust, meaning it has the name of the trust, it has the establishment date, which is also known as the date of birth of the trust. It has the address of the trust, the 9-digit number, and any important provisions of the trust, who the grantor is, who the trustee is. So all of that vital information, you actually need to bring that to the bank with you so that you can open up a bank account. Okay, so the different types of accounts you can get is a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, or a brokerage account. Okay, so you're going to open up that account, and then what you're going to do is you're going to fund it. You're going to fund it with whatever amount that you want, as long as you meet the minimum for that financial institution. So some of these financial institutions, their minimum is like $100. Some of them are $1,000. So it just depends on what bank you choose, okay? All right, so now the next thing that you have to do after you have opened up your bank account, after you have funded your trust, the next thing you want to do is transfer your assets into the trust. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to list those assets inside of the trust in one of the schedules. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to do the legal transfer. Now, when you have assets like a house or a car, they have titles and deeds associated with it. So let's just talk about your house real quick, right? So your property, your primary residence, where you live, right? That when you bought that house, you received a warranty deed. And so that warranty deed, it is actually available in the public records, and a lot of people don't know this, right? And so because it's available in the public records, everyone and anyone knows that you own that property. So if somebody wanted to come after you, all they have to do is do a property search on Jefferson County and put your name, and every single property that you own in Jefferson County, they're able to see it. And so now you become what we call low-hanging fruit, to where they know who they need to go after because now they know who owns the property, right? And so what you want to do is you want that property to be owned by a trust. And so you're going to actually deed it over into the name of the trust. Okay, so you're going to create a new deed, and you're going to deed it over from your personal name into the trust. You're going to record it with the county recorder's office. And now once they record it, it reflects on the public records that that house is owned by a trust, right? So that's what's going to protect you from a lot of things. So let you know what you can actually protect yourself from in the event of any of these things, right? So you want to be setting up a trust primarily for asset protection and also for privacy purposes. You don't want people to know that you own that house. You don't want people to know that you own that car, right? Or that business, vice versa, right? So these are the things that you can actually protect yourself from, right? So a trust can protect you from bankruptcy. A trust can protect you from a divorce, from foreclosures, from heavy taxation, from lawsuits, and from probate. So, for example, right, with a divorce, right? A divorce is a lawsuit between two spouses. And so a lot of us, we don't think about that, right? And with the divorce, you have to understand that it's between those two people. So that means that what you can do is you can set up a trust, and you can place assets into that trust. And now you are not the trust, and the trust is not you. So you're the one who's going through a divorce, not the trust. So they cannot pull that trust into your divorce. So that means that the cash money that you have in there, or the car, or the house that you have inside of that trust, is fully protected, right? So a lot of us, we have assets that we had prior to marriage. So you need to protect yourself in the event of a divorce, because a divorce is a transfer of wealth. Sometimes, unfortunately, one spouse will end up with everything and the other spouse will end up with nothing. I just seen something on the internet where Travis Hunter, he's only been married for a month. and his wife just filed for a divorce and now is trying to take $40 million from him. That is something that you need to protect yourself from, because let's just say she's asking for half. That means that his net worth is 80 million, right? But if he had a trust set up, and let's just say he had 60 million inside of his trust, then he only has 20 million that's up for grabs, right? And so that she wouldn't be coming for 40 million, right? She would only be coming for what's in his personal name, what's in Travis Hunter's personal name, right? And so that's the way that you need to be moving. You need to be moving strategically, right? And it's not only divorce, it's also lawsuits too, because people are trying to come after you. This is a sue-friendly country, okay? We live in the United States of America. Everyone wants to sue you, okay? Your neighbor wants to sue you. Your employer wants to sue you. Your best friend wants to sue you. Your brother wants to sue you, okay? And so you do not want to wait until you're getting sued to protect yourself from a lawsuit, okay? So let's just say that you're a business owner and you have an LLC, right? And so you have this business, and I don't know, let's just say that you're in real estate and you have a rental property, and one of your tenants, they slip, they fall, they decide, okay, I'm going to sue, the landlord. The landlord is an LLC, right? So they decide to come after the LLC. Now, it's very easy for them to find out who the owner of the LLC is. All they have to do is go down to the Secretary of State, they put in the name of the LLC, and boom, there's your name, right? So all of your information is there because you decided to be the owner on paper of that business, right? And so your name, your address, and everything is on there as the authorized member, right? And so a lot of people think that an LLC is there to, to protect them, which you have a little bit of protection, right? Because what does LLC stand for? So you guys let me know what you think LLC stands for.
Limited liability.
Limited liability
Exactly,
corporation.
yes. Yep, it stands for limited liability, right? And so if you know that the LLC is a limited liability company and you hear it in the actual word, limited liability. So if the company has very limited liability, who do you think has the other half of that liability?
The owner of the company.
Yes, that is completely correct. So you being the owner of the company means that you are liable for anything that happens to that company. So the LLC actually gives you a tiny little bit of protection, right? So let's just say that now that there's a slip and fall on their rental property, they're going after the LLC, right? And they're suing the LLC for $500,000, right? And so now you're going into litigation. If that LLC loses that lawsuit and now there's a judgment for $500,000, that LLC has to cough up 500,000. So that means that they're going to go after the bank accounts for the LLC and they're going to go after the assets. If that LLC does not have enough money or assets to cover that judgment or fulfill it, they're going to then come after the owner, which means that that judge is going to do what? That judge is going to pierce through the corporate veil and they're going to go after you. And they're going to go after you for your personal assets, which means that they're going to go after you for what? They can actually garnish your wages. They can garnish your entire bank account, all bank accounts in your personal name, and they can seize every single asset that you have in your personal name. Okay. So that means that they can seize that house where you and your children live, the car that you have in the driveway, paintings, anything that you have, your stock portfolio, the cash money in your bank accounts, anything and everything in order to fulfill that judgment. So unfortunately, a lot of us were walking around here thinking that we're not going to get sued, which is the biggest mistake ever, because I get calls all the time about, oh, I'm getting sued. Now let me go set up a trust, right? And so that's the biggest mistake that I see a lot of people make. That you think that you're invincible. You think that someone doesn't want to sue you or that you're never going to get sued. And so you wait and wait and wait and procrastinate and you sit on the fence, right? Not knowing, hey, I need to protect my assets right now. Because at the end of the day, this house that I live in, my children are sleeping here, right? And so I will regret the day that somebody decides to knock on my bank account and excuse me, knock on my door and decide to serve me with a lawsuit, right? And so you don't want to wait till that day happens. You want to protect yourself before that day happens. You want to move that house out of your name now. You want to move that bank account with that cash out of your name now. You want to move that LLC out of your name now. Okay. So a trust can protect you from lawsuits. A trust can also protect you from heavy taxations. Like what? Oh my gosh, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm about to tell you. So everything that I'm telling you, I need you to go back and do your research so that you can better understand, what's going on here. But did you know that the IRS taxes you when you die? Did anybody know that?
No.
Okay. So there is something called a death tax, right? And so if the IRS taxes you when you die, where do you think they get the money from? Somebody can come off mute. Let me know. Where do you think they get the money from?
Your assets.
Yeah,
Thank you.
what it,
Yeah, they get it from your assets. Right, exactly. They get it from your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your HSA, anything that you have in your personal name, right? They're going to go after your assets. They're notorious for it, okay? So there's so many different taxes, right? But not only the death tax, there's an inheritance tax. There's capital gains taxes. There's so many different taxes that you actually get to protect yourself from if you have a trust, right? Because now you're not subject to death tax because the trust didn't die. You died, yes, but the trust didn't die. And all the money is inside of the trust, right? No capital gains taxes, right? Because the assets are inside of the trust, right? And you transfer them by way of a gift. So another thing is that you can actually reduce your tax liability, okay? So I'll talk about that in just a moment, but you have to think about that because if you reduce your taxes, you get to build wealth efficiently and effectively. And at the end of the day, the last time that I checked, you want to get to the finish line, right? And you want to get there quick, not slow. So, with that being said, you want to be able to have these strategies in place and these tools in place so that you can have the highest amount of tax advantages, okay? Another thing is when it comes to a lot of us, we don't know about this, right? But let me ask you a question. Um, if you have these assets, right, like the house, let's just say that you have the house, right? If something were to happen to you, meaning that if you didn't wake up tomorrow, how do you think that house is going to be transferred from your personal name into the name of your children or your spouse or your next of kin or whoever you want to inherit that property? Somebody come off mute, let me know. If you have a house and that house is in your personal name and you did not wake up tomorrow, how is that house going to be transferred to your son and your daughter?
After
Probate.
probate. It's probate. It's not going to be transferred.
They gonna get you.
You guys, probate is inevitable. Like, do you know that we're all going to go through probate? If you have anything in your personal name, you're going to go through probate, unfortunately. There's only one way and one way only. Not two ways, not three ways, not four ways. There's only one way to avoid probate. Only one. And that is if you have a trust. Every other case will go straight into probate. So what is probate? So what are we doing, right? So we just said we have a house. We didn't wake up tomorrow. So that means that the way that you are going to transfer that property is because you didn't have your affairs in order, you're leaving it up to a judge. It's going to take a judge to be able to transfer that property from your personal name to the name of your children, your daughter and your son. Why? Because you didn't have your affairs in order. So you decided, oh, well, I only have 2 kids. They're going to split it. So there's nothing that I have to do. No, you need to take matters into your own hands right now. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to end up with an estate anyways. So are you going to set up your estate now while you're living, meaning that you set up that trust now, you transfer those assets now, or are you going to let the state of Texas, the state of California, the state of New York do it for you? So let me walk you through the probate process so that you can better understand it, because a lot of you guys already said probate, so you're familiar. You've heard these terms before, right? So a lot of people, they think that a will is good enough. A will end up in probate. A will is only your last will and testaments, which are your wish lists for how you want your assets to be dispersed. And the probate court system is the one that's going to actually administer that your wishes are quote unquote granted or carried out. Okay? A will cannot own anything. So a will is just that legal instrument which is instructions. Okay? All right. So now that we understand that a will automatically goes to probate, it's not going to protect you from probate, and you're not going to avoid probate, right? You thought that a will was good enough, right? And you have all these assets. You have the house, you have the car, you have $500,000 in the bank, right? So what's the first thing that happens is that because you didn't have an estate, the state of Florida is going to create an estate for you. They're going to create the John Smith estate. They're going to transfer your house, your car, and that $500,000 cash that you're sitting in your checking account in your personal name. They're going to transfer it into the trust. And then what's going to happen is they are then going to, your estate then has to be represented. Your estate needs to be represented in probate court. So it's going to be represented by a probate attorney in probate court. Okay. And so the first thing that happens is that judge is going to pay off your liabilities. So what are your liabilities? A lot of us, we don't even think about this, right? Our liabilities are the credit cards that we had, the student loans that we had, the mortgage that we had, the car note that we had. But one thing that we don't think about is how much medical bills we rack up at the end of life. Do you know what that ICU bill looks like? Do you know what that hospital bill looks like? Do you know what that nursing home bill or that rehabilitation bill looks like? Do you know? No, you don't, right? And so medical bills alone, right? Medicaid, Medicare, they are the first to come after your estate. The hospital bills, they go after your estate. Why? Because they want to pull the money out, right? And so sometimes those bills are 6 figures. So what happens if the judge says, I need to pay Medicare $150,000, but yet you don't have $150,000? Then what ends up happening is that judge decides that they're going to sell that house. So how many times have we seen it to where people's houses are being auctioned off through the county, right? Through the clerk of courts, right? You've seen it. And so I'm here to remind you that unfortunately that happened to them because they didn't have their affairs in order, because they didn't have a trust to protect their assets. And so the clerk of courts have the power to be able to auction your property off, right? Why? So that they can liquidate it and get the cash to pay off whoever has a lien on your property, right? And so the first people to put a lien on your property is Medicare and Medicaid. right? That nursing home. Those are the first people to put a lien on your property. So what ends up happening is because you didn't have enough cash inside of your checking account, right? And you didn't have enough cash inside of your estate, then the judge decides to sell your house. So you have your son and your daughter that is fighting in probate court to keep mom and dad's house, and they're losing the battle. They can't even keep mom and dad's house because you done racked up so much medical bills and ICU bills, and you had a student loan from 30 years ago that you forgot about. And so during the end of life, right, during that time, your son and daughter, they're grieving, right? They're grieving because they just lost the most important person in their life. But instead of them being allowed to grieve in peace, since you didn't have your affairs in order, they are pulled into the court system. And sometimes they're fighting each other, but majority of the time they're fighting the court system to get what they deserve, which is their inheritance. So your children are losing their inheritance. I'm here to freaking tell you that your children are not receiving their inheritance. Why? Because you didn't have the right tools in place, the right system in place. You wasn't structured the right way in order for them to actually receive it. But yet we work so hard, right? We have our 9-to-5 job. We're working 40 hours every single week for 40 years. We paid off our 30-year mortgage. We did everything that we thought we were supposed to do. But really what you was doing was you was making money and you was letting it sit inside of your checking account. That's what you was doing. You wasn't building generational wealth because you didn't have the tools to build generational wealth. So if you actually wanted what you're working so hard for, the house, the money, the business, all this stuff, if you actually want those things to actually reach the second generation, the third generation, you have to set up your trust estate now. You have to start building that legacy now while you're living. Do not wait for the state of Texas to do it for you. You have to create your own estate now. You have to protect those assets now. Tomorrow is not promised, even though we think we have tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. You don't. And so now what ends up happening when you're in probate, and how long is probate? Probate is 6 months to a year to 3 years to 5 years to I've seen it as long as 10 years. So with this probate process, right, the first thing that the judge does is pay off liabilities. Second thing that happens is now that your liabilities are paid off, then the attorney gets their portion, then the court fees get their portion, right? The probate court gets their portion, and whatever is left over is what your children get. Your children are going to receive the leftovers if there's anything less left over, which is highly, highly, highly unfortunate. And so you don't want that to happen. So the only way to avoid probate is by you setting up your trust. Now, let's look at this situation differently if you had a trust. So let's just say that you decided, yep, I want to get my affairs in order. I set up my trust. I put my house into the trust. I put my car into the trust, and I set up a trust bank account, and I transferred that cash money from my personal name, from the checking account in my personal name to the checking account in the trust. And then boom, I didn't wake up tomorrow. Well, what ended up happening is, remember, you have a successor trustee. That's the person who's going to take over after you if something happens to you. So the successor trustee takes over and they continue to operate the trust. So your assets are intact. Why? Because the trust didn't die, you died, right? So your assets are intact, the cash money is intact, your children will receive 100% of their inheritance, and they get to grieve in peace because they don't have to go through the probate process. And that debt that you had, meaning the medical bills, the student loans, everything that you had, all of your debt, it's going to die with you because there was nothing in your personal name. So those creditors, they can't come after your trust. They don't even know the name of your trust. They don't even know the existence of your trust. So they're only going to go after you as the person, which you died with nothing. No house, no car, no cash. So that debt dies. You know that debt dies. They just do a 1099, boom, discharged, right? And we're done. So that is the process that you want your family to take, right? And so you're only going to be able to accomplish this if you get your affairs in order and set up your trust, okay, you guys? So let's dive right back into the slides and then we can dive into Q&A. So the next thing that I want you guys to know is after you protect all of your assets, what you want to do is you want to put yourself in a position to where you are properly structured, right? So you want to think of ways in order to build wealth efficiently and effectively, okay? So you've set up your trust already, okay? But I need you to think that I need you to have the mindset that you need multiple trusts within your structure, okay? So it's not just only one trust. Why? Because you're not going to put all of your eggs in one basket. So that means that you're not going to put all of your assets in one trust, okay? So I have three pillars here. I have structure, I have credit, and I have invest. The first one is structure. So if you're not structured currently to where you have trust in there, then you need to get restructured, okay? So let's talk about these three trusts that I recommend. So the first one is a business trust, the second one is a family trust, the third one is a tax exempt trust. So with the first one, the business trust, right? This is a trust that you can use in two different ways. The first way you can use it is through actually operating a business. So instead of you going down to the Secretary of State and you setting up an LLC, you can avoid that whole process and you can set up a business trust and you can start operating your business, okay? And so that means that you're offering products and services to society, okay? The next way you can do is if you did not want to offer products and services, and let's just say that you already have an existing LLC or corporation, then what you want to do is you want to be able to utilize that business trust as a holding company, okay? Because remember the example that I gave you earlier. If you have that LLC and somebody has a slip and fall, or if your customer or client wants to sue you, then you are liable because you are the authorized member on paper. So what you want to do is you want to remove yourself as the authorized member. Please do not be the owner of your business. That is too much liability, okay? So now that you've decided, okay, I need to set up a business trust, then what you're going to do is you're going to do an amendment to your articles of organization. So you're going to go to the Secretary of State, you're going to amend the articles, you're going to remove yourself as the authorized member, then you're going to add the business trust, okay? So now the business trust is an entity, which is a holding company that owns the LLC. So the business trust, you're operating it as a holding company, which means that it doesn't have any products, it doesn't have any services. The LLC has the products and the services, okay? So with that entity, right? Now, when it comes to the business trust, right? If you have the LLC that's owned by the business trust, let's just say that the LLC generates 100,000. You can do a K-1 distribution and you can distribute all the money from the LLC to the business trust, right? And so now the tax liability for the LLC is zero, and now all that money came into the business trust. A business trust is a for-profit entity. It pays taxes. But one of the beautiful things that I love about this entity is that you spend the money first and you're taxed on the leftovers. So that is very different from how we are taxed. We are taxed to where we are taxed first and then we receive the leftovers. So now what you want to do is when you receive that 100,000 into the business trust, you want to spend the money first. That is called OPEX. OPEX is operating expenses. So you're going to deduct the operating expenses. So let's just say that it costs about $30,000 to operate the business trust. So now what happens is you have $100,000 that's coming in, you deduct 30 of it in your taxes because the business trust files a 1041. You as a natural person file a 1040, the business trust files a 1041, okay? So you already deducted the 30,000. So now you have 70,000 that's sitting inside of the business trust. Normally, you're going to have to pay taxes on it, right? So a business trust is taxed anywhere between 10% upwards of like 37%. So that's very high. So what you want to do is you want to be able to do something that's only very unique to trust, okay? Very, very, very unique to trust, which is you want to distribute that 70,000 to the beneficiary. So now that you distribute the 70,000, 100% of that distribution is tax deductible. Okay, so that means that you had $100,000 coming in, 30,000 was written off, right? And then the other 70 was distributed, and so now there's zero. There's zero, which is what you want to do. You want to zero it out, okay? So now that means that the business trust has a 0% tax liability, is done paying taxes. So one thing that we do very uniquely within our structure is that we make the family trust the beneficiary of the business trust. So why do we do that? We do that because a lot of us are full-time business owners and entrepreneurs, and so we need the money from the business to be able to take care of our family. And so that's why we make the family trust the beneficiary of the business trust, so that money can flow right into the family trust to take care of the family, okay? So now that we know that the business trust has distributed $70,000 to the beneficiary, and now that we know that the beneficiary is the family trust, all that money, the 70,000 went to the family trust, okay? So now let's move down to the family trust. So the family trust, the purpose of the family trust is for personal assets that has nothing to do with business. That means your primary residence. That means your primary vehicle. That means your life insurance policies, your cryptocurrency, your stocks, right? Your cash money, all that stuff goes into the family trust. And the beneficiaries are your children, okay? So now that you have your family trust structure, the family trust just received $70,000 from the business trust, okay? The family trust is a for-profit entity, so the family trust has to pay taxes on that, right? But the one beautiful thing that we absolutely love about the family trust is that you are taxed on the leftovers. You spend the money first, okay? And so because we have 70,000 that came in, what does it cost in order for us to actually run this organization, okay? So you have mortgage, you have utilities, you have kids' tuition, you have groceries, you have all of these things, car, gas, you name it, okay? So you have a bunch of operating expenses that you're going to write off. So let's just say that it ends up totaling to be 60,000. So out of the 70,000 that came in, you wrote off 60 and you got 10 left, okay? So you have to pay taxes on whatever's left over. So that means that you're going to pay 10% on that 10,000, okay? So that only is going to run you about $1,000, which is very good, right? For you to pay $1,000. But another thing that trust can do, right, is the way that trust can move money around is two ways: distributions and contributions. So we know that distributions go to beneficiaries. So where do contributions go? Do you guys know? Contributions.
Not to the nonprofit.
Charities.
Yes, charitable contributions. Thank you. You guys are golden. Okay, so when we're contributing, we are contributing to charities. That means that we are donating. That means that is 100% tax deductible. Okay, so that means that yes, you can pay taxes on the 10,000, or you can do a charitable contribution to any charity of your choice, and then boom, that tax liability is done. Okay, so that's what we're gonna choose to do. We're gonna choose to do a charitable contribution of that 10,000. That 10,000 is gonna go to a charity of our choice. And now at the family trust level, we are at a 0% tax liability, and we are done paying taxes for the family trust. So now that $10,000, where did it go? It actually went to our nonprofit. Okay, so you want to have a for-profit and a nonprofit within your structure. It's so vitally important. If you are intentional about building generational wealth, right, you need to build it efficiently and effectively by having a for-profit and a nonprofit. Okay, so now with the nonprofit, we use a tax-exempt nonprofit trust. Okay, so that trust is actually going to accept that 10,000 as a donation. So on the trust level, it comes in as a donation. On the family trust level, it goes out as a charitable contribution. Okay, so now that it has come in as a $10,000 donation, the beautiful thing about it is that with that money, you can deploy that money wherever you want. If you wanted to deploy that money into crypto, you can. If you wanted to deploy it into real estate, you can. If you wanted to deploy it into a business venture, you can. You can do whatever you want with that money, as long as it is within your guidelines in your trust contract. Okay, so now what is this type of entity? Well, this entity, it can be labeled as a ministry, as a church, as a faith-based organization. Okay, and so it is automatically exempt from paying federal taxes. I didn't say state taxes. I didn't say city taxes. I said federal taxes, meaning that the IRS is exempting you from paying federal income taxes as long as you're operating it as a faith-based organization, because there is a separation between church and state. Okay, so in the code, which is 508C1A, you're able to see that if you're running this type of organization, then it's a mandatory exception to not having to file for a 501c3. So normally a nonprofit does have to file for a 501c3, and there's a lot of scrutiny that comes with that. So you have to apply, you have to maintain annually, you have a limitation to your freedom of speech, and you have to provide all of your financial documents, right? But if you do it in the route of 508c1A, then you don't have to go through all of that rigorous application process. Okay, so when it comes to this type of trust, what I need you to know is that you can donate at any level. If you are a W-2 employee, the IRS will allow you to donate up to 60% of your annual gross income to your tax-exempt nonprofit trust, right? So if you're making $100,000 W-2 on the job, the IRS will allow you to donate 60, and now you're only going to be taxed on 40% or 40,000, right? That means that you get to deploy that money somewhere else, like real estate or stocks, or wherever you can actually park that money to where it's income producing. Okay, so that's why it's so efficient for you to take advantages of these tax strategies. Okay, now you can deploy it on the trust and the LLCs as well. Okay, so you can do it from the W-2 to any business to any trust entity. Okay, all right, so let's move on to the next one, which is credit. So credit is you leveraging OPM, other people's money. Okay, so what you want to do is, I need you to know that the trust can build credit. Okay, just like an LLC or a corporation can build credit. So you're going to get an EIN for the trust. You're going to build credit for the trust. The trust is then going to be able to qualify for lines of credit and credit cards, okay, which you will then leverage, and you will park those in income producing properties. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, when we move over to the next pillar, which is invest, these are the two assets that I recommend. The first one is the index universal life insurance policy, and the next one is real estate. Okay, so your trust can own both of these. The trust can own the IUL policy, the trust can own real estate. Okay, So let's talk about the IUL policy, okay? So it's IUL for short, and for long is Index Universal Life, okay? Now, a lot of people think that life insurance is supposed to be used when they are dead. They really think, okay, I'm going to get a life insurance policy, and then when I die, my children are going to get, a check for 100,000. Well, that is definitely not the way that you are intended to use life insurance. Life insurance has a lot of living benefits, and I know because I have 5 policies, specifically 5 IUL policies, okay? So there's so many living benefits to life insurance, okay? And I'm going to briefly touch on this in the next 2 minutes. Now, with this policy, right? So this is what we call your a life insurance policy is an asset, okay? And so it has liquidity, okay? The funds that you put inside of the life insurance, so when you pay those premiums every single month, right? You're going to be growing the money inside of your policy tax free, okay? Another thing is that it's protected. So if somebody wanted to sue you today and you have a life insurance policy, they can't go after your life insurance policy. Okay, so that's a beautiful thing as well. Okay, so just imagine you being able to use this tax-free instrument in order to grow your money. Now, how is it that you're going to grow your money? Well, 2 things that I need you to know. With the life insurance policy, right? You have a death benefit. So that means if anything happens to you, if anything happens to you, then the life insurance company is going to cut a check to your beneficiary, okay? But then you also have another bucket of cash, which we call the cash value, okay? So cash value is another account within your policy. Every time that you pay your premium, there's a certain percentage that goes to the carrier for the cost of insurance, and then the rest of that money goes to your cash value, okay? So let's just say it's an 80-20 split. So that means that 20% is going to go to the carrier and 80% is going to go to your cash value, okay? Now, the beautiful thing about you accumulating cash inside of your insurance policy is that with this unique policy that I'm telling you guys about, which is an Index Universal Life, that word index actually is referring to an indice in the stock market, okay? So an indice in the stock market, you have many of them. You have the Dow Jones, you have the NASDAQ 100, and you also have the S&P 500, okay? So the most popular one that everyone talks about is the S&P 500, which is the Standard & Poor's 500, which tracks the top 500 companies in this country, okay? So what happens is your money is not directly inside of the stock market, but what the carrier is doing is they're mirroring the market, right? With this Index Universal Life. So that means that if the market is doing 9%, they are going to match that 9% and they're going to give you those returns inside of your cash value. So now you're actually earning compound interest within your cash value, okay? Which is actually what you want. So that means that those dollars are going out, they're working, and they're bringing back friends, which is what you want, okay? So you're going to be earning compound interest inside of your cash value. Your money is going to be making money for you because a lot of us have really we have really bought into the lie that society has told us. And the lie that society has told us is for us to go ahead and get a job, right? To work 40 hours a week for 40 years and to retire when we're 65 years old. And that's not what we want, right? I'm here to tell you that you can retire at a young age. I have implanted that in my mind when I was like 18 years old. And so I end up retiring from my career when I was 31 years old because I was intentional. So I said, hey, I'm going to do my career for 10 years. And I ended up retiring in 8 years because I was able to invest in real estate. I was able to accumulate a couple of properties, and my property started paying me six figures, and my nursing job was paying me six figures. And so when COVID came around, I was like, okay, am I going to risk my life and die? Or am I going to just go full force into my business, right? And so I just walked away from my nursing career at 31 years old, and I just retired. So that is the type of position that you need to put yourself in. But we are in this rat race where we're institutionalized. We think that whatever it is that society wants for us, we just bought into it. Every single thing that they have told us, we have bought into it, right? We've been institutionalized since kindergarten all the way up to the day that we die. And we're thinking that the government is going to take care of us. We're thinking that Social Security is going to be around forever, and all of these benefits, social benefits, are going to be around forever. And that's not the case, right? And so what we need to be doing is we need to put ourselves in a position to where we're financially independent, right? We need to put ourselves in a position to where now, right? Not when we're 65, now is when we can have time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. That is going to take a mindset shift. That is going to require you to put yourself in a position to where, one, you get structured right. You set up your trust estate. You start paying yourself first instead of last. You start parking your money in places to where the money is making the money. You do not have to work for money. The money will work for you. The money will go out, work, and bring back friends. Okay. So that's why you need to put your money in places where it's going to be accumulating compound interest, because every single dollar is going to go out and bring back 10 cents, go out and bring back 25 cents. And then at that point, it's a snowball effect to where you don't have to work for money, right? And so now let's circle back to the IUL policies, right? So the IUL policies are my favorite type of asset to have, because it actually earns the compound interest. So all the money that you're putting inside of your cash value is earning compound interest. So that money is growing and growing and growing, right? So if the stock market is doing 11%, boom, they're going to give you 11% in your cash value, which is what you want. Now, how do we tie it in with the trust? The trust is going to be the owner of your life insurance policy. The trust is going to pay the premiums of your life insurance policy. The trust is going to be the beneficiary of your life insurance policy, and you are going to be the insured of your life insurance policy. So the trust is going to insure your life. If something happens to you, right, that death benefit goes to the trust fund. That is where you have the generational wealth in this whole entire thing, right? Is with the life insurance policies. Okay, it's so vitally important. Okay, now the next one that I want to tell you guys about is real estate, right? So real estate is my favorite asset, as you guys can tell. I talk about it a lot. Okay, and with this asset is a tangible asset. Okay, real estate is not going anywhere. Land is not going anywhere. Okay, so buckle up. Now, the thing that I love about real estate is that a trust can actually qualify for a mortgage. A trust can own real estate, land, property, condos, whatever you name it, okay? So what you want is you want the trust to go ahead and acquire a income producing asset, okay? That property. So let's just say that you want it to be like a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, right? Let's just say that you go ahead and you're going to go ahead and purchase a fourplex, okay? So you got 4 units under one roof. So one of the loans that I absolutely love is a DSCR loan, which is debt service ratio coverage ratio loan, okay? So that is for non-owner occupied properties that are income producing properties. They're rentals for investments, okay? And so they'll lend you up to 80% of the purchase price for that property. So if you're going to get 80% from the DSCR loan, where are you going to get the other 20% from? Well, let's go ahead and rewind, because remember, our second pillar is OPM, other people's money, credit, right? You're going to get it from the bank, right? So how is the bank getting wealthy? How is the bank generating all this money, right? They are also using OPM. Your paycheck goes straight into the bank, right? And so then they are leveraging your paycheck, and they're going out and giving out student loans, mortgages, credit cards, personal loans, you name it. Okay. So the bank is using other people's money, your money, my money, and lending it out. Okay. Research the fractional reserve. So that's how the bank is making money, and a lot of people think that's how, you know, majority of the banks are getting wealthy, but the bank's number one asset is life insurance policies. Okay, this is another thing that I need you to research. Okay, so these banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, right, their number one asset is a BOLI, a bank owned life insurance, BOLI. Okay, so look it up. So if the bank's number one asset is a BOLI, do you think that your number one asset should also be a BOLI? I will tell you that my number one asset is life insurance policies. Okay, that's why I have 5 of them. Now, okay, so now we know OPM. So that means that we went and we're going to leverage our credit, okay? And not our personal credit. We're going to leverage business credit. We're going to get higher lines of credit. We're going to get credit cards with $50,000 lines of credit, $25,000 lines of credit. So let's just say we got a credit card for 50,000. We're going to strip that credit card, okay? We're going to take the money out of that credit card. Before we use it for a down payment on real estate, that money is going to be parked in our index universal life insurance policy. So we're going to make a large lump sum of the premium payment. Our cash value is going to go up by 50,000. Now, the beautiful thing about an index universal life insurance policy when you have cash value is that you're able to borrow the money, okay? So now you're putting yourself in a position to where you're going to become your own bank, because now you're putting money in and you get to borrow money out, right? But the money that you're borrowing when you go to take money out of your life insurance policy is not your money, okay? Your money, your cash value is sitting inside of the policy earning compound interest. And so because of the liquidity, right, and it being an asset, when you go to do that loan paperwork with the insurance carrier, they are going to approve it, but they're going to lend you their money. So they're going to go in their bank account, in their reserves, and they're going to give you the money that you need. So out of that 50,000, let's just say you borrow 49,000, right? So hey, I need 49,000. They're going to do a direct deposit and put back 49,000 into your bank account. So now you have 50,000 working inside of your life insurance policy, earning compound interest, right, with the stock market. You have 49,000 of liquid cash back inside of your bank account. So what you're going to do is you're going to use that 49,000 as the down payment that you need to get that fourplex. So now you have closed on the fourplex, because 80% came from the DSCR, 20% came from your business line of credit, okay? So you just acquired real estate 0 down. Now, majority of the real estate that I have acquired at 0 down. I promise you, I give my word, not $1 came from me, okay? So this is how you want to be able to acquire real estate, okay? So now you just acquired real estate 0 down, okay? And you have 4 tenants, you know, you have 4 tenants, you have 4 doors. So let's say that these tenants are paying you rent, right? $1,500 each, okay? So that's $6,000 a month in rent. What are you gonna do? It's the first of the month. What are you gonna do with that $6,000? Somebody come off mute. I know I'm not by myself in here. Am I by myself? Y'all wanna shut it down right now?
Pay back the line of credit.
That's a good one.
I'm going to put it in the IUL so that it can gain more money and I can still borrow and still stay debt free.
Yes. Okay. I love it. That is absolutely correct. So that's exactly what you want to do first, right? So there obviously is a sequence here. And so the first thing that you want to do is you want to funnel that rental income into your IUL, okay? That cash value is going to go up by 6,000. You're going to borrow whatever is available. Now, when it comes to borrowing from your IUL policy, you do not have to pay those loans back, okay? So those loans are going to be automatically deducted from your death benefit, okay? Your death benefits, let's say 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, 5 million, whatever your death benefit is, okay? So just know and understand that you don't have to pay those loans back, okay? So that 6,000 just went in, and let's just say that they allow you to borrow out 5,500, right? Because they're not going to let you borrow 100%. So some of them are like 92%, 95%, 98%. They want you to leave a little bit of cushion inside of your cash value, because if you strip all the cash value, then you're going to be putting your policy at risk, okay? So just be mindful of that. So let's just say you put in 6,000, you take out 5,500. Now with that 5,500, yes, you're going to pay the line of credit, you're going to pay your mortgage, and then you have money left over. That those leftovers is going to go into the trust fund. Okay. And so now you're going to rinse and repeat this entire process. And that is how you're going to build generational wealth that actually lasts generations. Because if you don't have this type of strategy in place, you're not building generational wealth. You cannot walk around here saying, hey, I'm building generational wealth, but all you're doing is just making money and letting it sit inside of the bank, right? Especially if it's W-2 income money, right? So at the end of the day, that's the strategy. Now, the last thing that I want to tell you about, and then we will go ahead and conclude our webinar for tonight, is I want to talk about how to actually transfer the wealth, right? So you want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. And I'm going to say it again because it's so vitally important. You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything, okay? So that is what stewardship is. Stewardship is where the trust owns everything. You control the trust, and you are being a good steward of the assets that was placed in your care, okay? Versus ownership. Right now, you guys are operating in ownership where you are this, big person, and this ties back to society, okay? If you guys follow what society is telling you, you're going to be right off of a cliff. So society is telling you that you want to be a proud owner, right? You want to be the proud owner of the car. You want to be the proud owner of the house. You want to be the proud owner of the business. No, you do not want to have your name on nothing, okay? So you want to own nothing on paper, on your personal name, but you want to control everything, okay? So right now you are operating in ownership, which is a dangerous game. Now, let's talk about that house, right? That house that you live in, that you love so much, right? The white picket fence, right? That house. Hold on one second. All right, so you guys have the white picket fence with the dog and the kids, right? The American dream, right? The nuclear family. And that's all cute and everything. But at the end of the day, I need you to keep this in mind. If you don't wake up tomorrow, that house is still going to be there. And so what you truly want is control over that house while you're living. It's not that you have to be the owner. It's that, hey, I want to be able to control this house, you know, as long as I'm alive. And then when you transition, whoever you're passing the baton to, then they're going to control it. So that's what you want. You want to control it, okay? So get out of the mindset of ownership, because that's a dangerous game that you're playing, and you're going to lose if you play by their rules, okay? So now, have you ever asked yourself, how am I going to transfer my wealth? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Honestly.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good, good, good. All right, what was the answer? What was the answer when you had asked yourself that question?
I looked up sub trust to go
Oh,
underneath the main trust.
yes, subtrust. I love subtrust. All right. So, um, how do we actually transfer our wealth, right? Well, we're going to set up a trust and then we're going to ensure that our children receive their inheritance. How are we going to ensure that? Because we're going to appoint our children as beneficiaries. Beneficiaries are also known as TCU holders. TCU stand for Trust Certificate Units. Trust certificates are very similar to stock certificates. So with a stock certificate, it's representing some form of ownership in a corporation. So with a trust certificate, it's representing what we call beneficial interest in a trust, okay? So one thing that I need you to know about a trust is that no one can own a trust. A trust does not have an owner, okay? There's nobody that owns it. You have trustees that control it, you have beneficiaries that are holders of the units, okay? So with that being said, if you have a trust, and let's just say that that trust has a net worth of $1 million, right? And let's just say that you have 4 beneficiaries and you distribute the trust certificate units, right? And so you're saying, hey, you get 20 units, you get 50 units, and you get 20 units, or you get 30 units, right? And so you've distributed, right? And so now what's going to happen is my amount of units that I have is going to represent my beneficial interest. So if the trust is worth $1 million and I have 50 units, that means that I pretty much have a beneficial interest of 50% of what's inside of the trust, which means that out of that $1 million, I'm entitled to $500,000 because I have 50 trust certificate units out of the grand total of 100 units, okay? So that is how you're going to transfer wealth by way of trust certificate units. And it goes from generation to generation to generation. So if I am currently a trust certificate unit and I transition, my units are going to go to my children, right? And I get to decide how I want to divide my units between my inheritors. And it goes on from generation to generation, okay? So that is how you're going to ensure that the right people receive beneficial interest inside of the legacy that you have decided to leave, that you worked so hard for. You worked hard for this legacy, right? And so you need to have a trust in place with some very tight provisions so that the money is not blown by the second and third generation. Because we have seen it, right? How many times have we seen it to where we see celebrities, we see famous families, we see actors, actresses, athletes, so where they get a large amount of money, even lottery winners, right? They get a large amount of money and they blow it, or their family blow it, or they didn't have their affairs in order and now their family is fighting in court, right? We have seen it, right? And so it's very unfortunate. And the reason why that has happened is because they did not have trust in place, okay? So you need trust in place in order for you to ensure that that money is going to actually last. That is what we call preservation, okay? So a lot of us, we don't think that far ahead to say, hey, how is this money going to be preserved for 10 generations into the future? So there's 2 tools that you need when you're going to preserve your wealth. You need a trust and you also need that life insurance policy. Why? Because what happens is the trust is going to take out a policy on every single person associated with the trust. So it's not only you, but it's also your co-trustee and your beneficiaries, right? So that means that you are also going to be insured as well as the current beneficiaries and the future beneficiaries, okay? Because what happens is the trust has a lot of assets. The trust has a house, so they have homeowners insurance. The trust has a car, so they have automobile insurance. The trust has cash, so they have FDIC. So the trust has human assets, which are you and your family members. So the trust needs to ensure the human assets because if anything happens to you and your family members, the trust is devastated. So the trust needs to be compensated for that loss. The only way that the trust is going to be compensated for that loss is if the trust is the owner, the payer, and the beneficiary. Because if you don't wake up tomorrow and you have a $3 million death benefit, that death benefit goes straight into the trust fund and the trust is replenished, okay? And so that's what preservation looks like. So what happens within this system that you're creating, because you are creating a distribution system, okay? So when you go to create this system, what happens is when you hear that term trust fund baby, that means that a baby has been born into the trust, okay? And so when that baby is born into the trust, the trustee is going to take out a life insurance policy on that baby, okay? So that baby is going to be nothing but 30 days old, and they are going to be insured with an index universal life insurance policy. And now the trust is going to be responsible for paying those premiums every single month, okay? And so now let's fast forward into the future. That trust fund baby has now turned 18 years old. Well, when that trust fund baby is 18 years old, they got a lot of expenses that come out of the woodworks, right? They're going to college, they got room and board, they want a brand new car, they got books, all of this stuff, right? And so they can easily take out loans, right? Student loans up the wazoo, car loan up the wazoo. Or what they can do is because they are a trust fund baby, they can go to the trust organization, they can ask the trustee for a loan, and that trustee can very well much give them a loan. So if you want that trust fund baby, if that trust fund baby wants to get a brand new car for $30,000, instead of them going to the dealership, pulling their credit and getting into a high interest car loan with high payments, what they're going to do is they're going to ask the trustee for $30,000. That trustee is going to cut them a check for $30,000. They're going to go buy that car cash and ride on the way to campus. Okay. So now for them to have some type of financial responsibility, the trust fund baby is going to pay $250 a month to the trust, right? So now the trust is actually earning money and a little bit of interest off of that loan, right? But let's just say that a year into the future, college is getting tough, kids is getting distracted, and they decide, hey, I don't want to pay the trust anymore. Well, that is okay. And the reason why it's okay is because although that trust fund baby has defaulted on a $30,000 loan, that $30,000 loan did not originate from the trust fund. That $30,000 originated from the trust fund baby's life insurance policy. Remember, that policy was taken out when that baby was 30 days old, okay? So now when that baby is 18 years old, it has accumulated a lot of cash value and compound interest. So that $30,000 came from their policy because the trustee went to the carrier, borrowed the $30,000. That $30,000 was direct deposited into the trust fund, which then allowed them to go ahead and pay, allow them to go ahead and issue that check to the trust certificate unit holder, which is that trust fund baby. Okay, so because it was a risk-free loan, that money is automatically going to be deducted from the death benefit of the life insurance policy. So when that trust fund baby transitions, because that trust fund baby can't come to the trust no more for no loans. So if you need a house, you need to get married, you know, fall sick on time, you can't come to the trust no more because you defaulted on that 30,000, but your life is still insured. So when that trust fund baby transitions, that $5 million is going to the trust, right? And that 30,000 is automatically deducted from the death benefit. That is how you're going to preserve wealth. You need the tools to preserve wealth. So if you don't have this type of system in place, you need to get your affairs in order as soon as possible because time is not, tomorrow is not promised. All right, so with that being said, these are the books that I recommend. So I recommend What Would the Rockefellers Do? That's a really good book. The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, Family Wealth, and The Complete Book of Trust. Those are really good books. And what I want to do is I want to show you a quick video of an individual that decided to take action on the information that I provided tonight. So I know that I've been talking for an hour and a half, and I'm so sorry that we went over, but this information is so vital, and I wanted to be able to share as much as possible. Obviously, I can't share everything, but I wanted to give you guys a little glimpse of what this type of distribution system looks like if you decide to implement what I told you.
Well, kudos to you all. Again, Christina, it's been a wonderful experience. I've been looking at your videos on YouTube for a while, and there are a number of people offering trust these days, and I guess that's the big thing. Uh, don't own anything, control everything. That kind of, I didn't say it correctly, but that is the sentiment. And so it seems like the playing field is being leveled now from the rich and people who weren't privy to this information. So thank you for being such a great asset to a community that didn't have this information. And you made it so simple. Thank you for the recordings. Thank you for the step-by-step instructions, things that we can go back and look at. So we do appreciate you. And thank you, Mondo. That was a great explanation of infinite banking. I know a number of people are talking about that, but they make it so complex. And his presentation was nice and succinct and very informative. So this has been an overall great experience. I definitely will recommend you to others.
All right, guys, so let's work together. I do have a program where it teaches you step by step on how to actually set up these trusts. Okay, so I do recommend 3 trusts: a business trust for business owners and entrepreneurs, a family trust so that you can house your personal assets that have nothing to do with business, and the nonprofit so that you can receive donations and you are able to give out charitable contributions to your own organization. Okay. So with that being said, I do have 3 tiers here. So the first one is do it yourself, where you can actually enroll in our course. So the course has 43 video modules. You get to download the templates and you get to watch the video trainings teaching you step by step on how to actually set up everything, this entire system. Okay. And you get lifetime access to the course, plus all the resources and ebooks. So some of the books that I recommended, some of them are quite expensive if you go on Amazon. And so they're included inside of the program electronically. And then we provide you with all the resources that you need. So if you need to transfer your house into the trust, we give you the quick claim deed. If you need to have a board meeting for the trust, we provide you with the meeting templates. If you need to put your vehicle into a trust, we provide you with the bill of sales, right? So we provide you with all the essentials that you need from A to Z on how to not only set up your trust, but operate as a trustee, which is very important. Okay, that's what set us apart. And then we also are cultivating the community. So we have over 1,200 trustees in our community, and you get access to them. Okay, so we have a private Facebook community and a Telegram chat where we're chatting back and forth. And so these individuals are in your city, they're in your state, and you have access to be able to network with like-minded individuals within this community. Okay, so the course is only $997 if you want to do it by yourself independently with our online course. Okay. Your second option is done with you. Done with you is our virtual workshop. So you see how we are live on Zoom today. Well, that is what we're going to do for our workshop. Our workshop is 5 days. So it's Monday through Friday. And what we do is on Monday, we set up the business trust together. So I break down every single paragraph of the trust live with you on Zoom, okay? So for example, the business trust is about 50 pages. So I thoroughly go through every single line by line. And then I allow you to ask questions on the spot. Okay, so whatever questions that you have, I'm going to answer it right then and there so that you don't have to, be confused. You have the clarity that you need right away so that you can move forward. Okay. So that's Monday. Tuesday, we focus on the family trust. So I break down every single paragraph. We dive into Q&A. Wednesday, we focus on the nonprofit. So I break down every single paragraph. And then after the nonprofit, I show you guys how to go down the ordination process if you want to become ordained ministers. And then I show you how to get your tax exempt EIN numbers. And then we dive into Q&A. So being in that type of environment is so is so important because people are asking questions that you didn't know that you wanted to know, right? So environment is very, very, very important. Just masterminding with like-minded individuals, okay? And then on Thursday, what happens is we apply for the EINs with the IRS, and then I show you about how to open up your bank account. I give you a list of banks, and then I show you the banking procedures. So every step that you need to take, I show you how to have a board meeting, how to document how much you're going to fund the trust with, and then one of our educators is going to come in and teach you about business credit and business funding so that you can leverage OPM and get the money that you need for the fund to acquire the assets, okay? And then we dive into Q&A. And then the very last day is Friday. So Friday we focus on assets. So what we do is with the assets, we're first going to take an inventory of our assets, so that we know which assets are going to stay in the trust and which assets actually don't qualify and they have to stay outside of the trust. And then from there, I show you how to do quick claim deeds for your properties so that you guys are able to put your real estate into the trust. I show you how to do bill of sales for your vehicles, and then business purchase agreements and amendments with the Secretary of State so that you guys can put your businesses into the trust. And then lastly, we have one of our educators who's going to come in and teach you about trust taxes. So you guys have a lot of questions when it comes to taxes, and our CPA is the right person to lead you in the right direction when it comes to that. And then, and so that actually concludes our workshop, and then we just dive into Q&A. So with the workshop, it's only $2,500. And then the last option is done for you where you want to be completely hands off. So this is for people with multiple assets, multiple businesses, or they don't have the time or capacity to want to do it themselves. And so my team will do it for you. So we set up all three trusts for you. We apply for your EINs, and we help you transfer all of your assets, the house, the car, the boat, the money, whatever it is, the life insurance policies. So you get individualized support. You get your custom structure. So you tell us what your structure is, and we customize your structure to get restructured where we implement all three of the trusts for you. So everything is customized. So the done for you is only $7,500. So if you guys are interested, then you can either send us a text to the number that you see on the screen. You can visit our website at wealthytrustee.com, and you can also send us an email at info@7waystowealth.com. But if you go to the website, you'll be able to see all of the options. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you guys what I want to show you guys what the course looks like, and then I also want to show you guys what an actual trust looks like. And for everyone who's on the call right now, what I will do is just for you guys, I will give you guys 20% off if you take action in the next 24 hours. So 20% off for 24 hours. Okay. So that means tomorrow at midnight is the deadline, and we are going to deactivate the code. So the discount code is going to be trust20. So the word trust and the number 20 all together in the checkout page for the website. So now let me show you quickly what our trust looks like, and then we can dive into some Q&A. I have about 15 minutes for Q&A. So hold on for me 1 second. Okay. So this is what a trust looks like. So this is one of our templates. So everything that you see in red is what we help you customize, okay? So, you're going to customize it with the name, addresses, things like that. So like I said, we break down every single paragraph of the trust so that you guys can understand the contents of the trust. That's the most important thing, okay? A lot of people, they'll get a trust and they don't know how to use it, and they'll always stay on the fence, right? And so within this program, we focus on trusteeship. We focus on operation. We teach you the ins and outs, the A's and Z's on how to actually implement, what you have, right? So this is the actual course. So all levels come with the course. So if you do it yourself, if you do the workshop, or if you get it done for you, you still get access to the course, okay? So the first thing we focus on is trust entity. where you learn what is a trust, the different parties involved, like the grantors, trustees, beneficiaries, successors, protectors, the different types of trust. Then we dive into the ministry trust. So we break down all the paragraphs, do all everything like that. Then we dive into the family trust. We break down all the bylaws, the schedules, show you how to apply for the EIN. And then we do the same thing with the business trust. We break down the entire indenture, certificate. And then we go into tax strategies where you learn how to operate tax exempt, where you learn the different tax strategies for the different, all three different types of trust, and how to avoid tax evasion. That's not what you want, and distributable net income. And then we go into asset protection, where, as I told you, you take an inventory, and then we teach you how to get a bank account, brokerage account, how to transfer your house, your car, your policies, your businesses, and how to do board meetings. Then you go into wealth creation, where we teach you how to establish business credit for the trust, how to invest in the stock market, and how to implement the be your own bank model with the infinite banking with the life insurance policies. We show you about wealth preservation, and then you have all of your resources and all of your ebooks towards the end. Okay. So that is the program, you guys. As I mentioned, you can go to wealthytrustee.com. So the link is in the chat for you guys. So just click on that link, go choose whichever option that is best fits your organization, right? Your needs. And then you can go ahead and put in the discount code. Now, somebody in the chat asked, what is the $200 deposit? So if you guys want, if you don't have the money to get into the program right now, meaning that you don't have 997 or 2500 right now, or you can't initiate a payment plan, then what you can do is you can put in a $200 deposit, so that that will secure your 20% discount, and that will secure your spot. And then we will roll you into a custom payment plan where you can pay as you go at your, your different times. So you'll customize it based off of, your financial capacity. Okay. So if you are intentional, you want to take advantage of the 20% discount that's going to expire tomorrow, then you want to go ahead and secure that $200 deposit. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for Q&A. So do I have anyone who has a question? It says Albie has
Yes.
a question.
I
Hi,
have
Hi,
one.
Albie.
Kristen.
I got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi.
So, nice to meet you, Christina. Thank you for the
Nice,
webinar, by the way.
nice to meet you as
Um,
well.
so I had a question. So I wanted to know, with the business trust, since I have a PMA, and I'm pretty sure you know what that is, can I put that underneath the business trust and have the business trust as a holding group, right? Um, and that's my first question. And then my second question, my last question is, um, with the business trust and the PMA that I have, which one of those two should I open up a bank account with to do transactions? I mean, right now I already have an EIN for the PMA, but with the business trust, I wanted to know if I could put the PMA underneath the business trust as a holding group.
You can. So you can put the PMA under the business trust, and I would open up a bank account. I would definitely open up a bank account for the business trust, but if you're going to be doing transactions with the PMA, you don't want to commingle funds. So if both of them are going to have some type of activity, then you might want to open up a bank account for both.
Okay, can I just have um the business trust? Can I just open up the bank account with the business trust and not the PMA if I'm gonna use it as a holding group for the
So
PMA?
whoever is offering products or services needs a bank account.
Right, right. So the PMA will be doing the products and services.
So
Okay, so
you don't want to commingle funds. They're two separate entities.
right, right. Okay, so You answered my question. Yeah. So
I know.
I'll have the PMA um doing the services, products and services, and open up an account or a bank account to do transaction, and then just have the business trust as a holding group underneath for the PMA.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh, you're
Appreciate
welcome. All right. Next, was it Joanne? Someone was talking.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
Okay, I just got two simple questions because I
Yes,
actually
ma'am.
started. Address. First, the address. Can I use a PO box instead of my personal address?
You can use a PO box, but a lot of banks don't accept PO boxes. So then what address will you use as an alternative? And also when you go to apply for the EIN, the IRS doesn't accept a PO box. So what address would you use as an alternative?
That's what I'm saying. If we didn't want it connected to us, my home address with my name. So, is that going to affect anything?
So what I recommend is that you use a virtual address versus a PO box, and the
Okay.
virtual address is going to be the address that you designate specifically for the trust. You do want the trust to have a separate address from you
Y-
from you, and that is something that we teach in the program.
Okay. And first, the sub trust, because I don't know if I was doing it right, because I already have a nonprofit. I'm already an ordained minister, and I needed to incorporate that into the trust now. Do I do it as a sub trust or do I just do the paperwork over?
I'm not sure. So you would have to give me like more detail. It just depends on operation, honestly.
I have a nonprofit organization already that I
So
wanted.
you saying you want to convert that into a trust?
I wanted to put it in the trust. That's how I thought if
You
a
can.
sub trust would do
Yes.
that. Do
Yes,
I
you can.
do it with a sub trust or I just add it?
So your nonprofit can be owned by a trust.
Okay, that's what I'm doing next. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi, Christina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Um, First of all, thank you for what you do. There aren't words to explain. There aren't words. So I won't try to make any. But anyway,
Thank
I
you.
have a,
I appreciate you saying that, Miss Marie. Thank you so much.
okay, I have a building that is a 501c3. And it is tax exempt. What I was wondering, of course, I would love to put it in a trust, but would I jeopardize the status of my 501, of my property tax exemption if I put it in the trust? Because does it have to be reassessed? When you put a property somewhere, does a reassessment occur?
It depends on the county. Everything is county specific. So you would have to contact your county to let them know. I have seen some counties that they do not. They have their policies and procedures where they reassess every 10 years. Some of them reassess every year. Some of them reassess when there is a transfer of title.
Okay, so it might just be best to leave that alone. Leave it as it is, or at least check it out. Uh, Check
Yeah,
out the county.
yep, contact your county.
Okay. The other question is now when you're setting up the EIN for your business trust, your family trust, and when you learn how to do the 508A1C, when you go to apply for the EIN, should different people, they ask for a social security number, should that be different social security numbers or that you get different people to set it up, or can you use your social security number for the business trust when you're getting the EIN to open up a trust account, a bank account? Can you use
So,
yours?
so the responsible party is the grantor, whoever the grantor of the trust is going to provide their full name and social.
Okay, okay. Um, and the last thing, when you and this might be redundant, when you talked about the family trust is owned by or is the beneficiary of the business, correct?
That is correct.
Um, and so then is beneficiary, the beneficiary listed on that, who then becomes the beneficiary? Do you put the name of the trust on how do you do that? What name goes on that? Because on the family trust, you have your children as the beneficiary. So how does
Does the family trust have a name?
yes,
Then you
so
put
that's
that.
how you do it. Oh,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
gotcha. All right,
It's
thank you
it's
so much.
it's very simple.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Next we have Annette.
Yeah, hello. Sorry that my video is not working. My camera, there's something wrong today. I have many questions. Just start with number one, the most interesting for me. So my volunteer grantor from the volunteering list in Germany, he told me that you told him that the business trust can be set up by a grantor, he then, for me in Germany, he is then the grantor of the business trust. And then he said, then the next grantors of the family trust and the charity trust can be trust number one, the business trust. Is that right?
Okay.
And how does that work out by the bank?
Okay. Annette, I'm gonna answer your question separately, okay? So
Okay.
I'm gonna answer it privately, okay? So if you could just stay on, let me finish with everyone else, and then we'll have
Mhm.
our own separate thing so that I can understand everything, okay?
But I have some more questions. Interesting
I,
for everybody. You have in your indentures that there is every beneficiary can ask for a loan up to $250,000 every year. I thought, well, I go bankrupt immediately. When 10 beneficiary can ask for 10 times $250,000 a year. So I thought, is it possible to write down when liquidity allows, beneficiaries can apply for support or a loan. It will be up to the board to decide if this will be granted.
So everything is customizable. So yeah, you can change that number to 20,000 to 2,000 to 15,000, whatever number that you want.
But it has to be a number.
Yes, you can do. So in that section, you have a percentage amount and a dollar amount. So you can go based off of the percentage, you can go based off of the dollar.
So it cannot be like I suggested.
Yeah. So Annette, I'm gonna ask you to hold on, okay?
Okay.
Hold on to your questions because this is not the place where we ask these type of questions, okay? Because we're gonna confuse everyone else that's on the call, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next we have Gerald, and then
Yes.
we have Kemet, and then BT.
Christine, I appreciate it. Sisters, I don't know if you can hear me good. I'm talking through my earpiece. Can
Yes,
you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you
Okay.
perfectly.
I appreciate your assistance. So I've set up a family trust, make the family trust the owner of a holding trust. Then I just set up uh, made the holding company a owner of the operating company. Um, the operating company, I made the LLC. The holding company, I made the LLC. The trust is irrevocable trust. My question is, and I set them up. The holding company is in Wyoming. The um, operating company is in the state that I live in. So my question is to you: Should the so I was on the fence about this. I didn't really know. I just made a decision because I didn't want to be on the fence. I wanted to make a decision. Should I have set the holding company up as a business trust, or is it just a personal preference? And the operating company, should I have set that up as a trust as well, or is the LLC suitable for what I guess I'm trying to set up?
So, both the holding company is already owned by a trust.
The holding company is owned. Yes, it's owned by my family trust that I set up.
Okay, so anywhere in this, in your current structure, do you have your personal name or no?
No, nowhere. I've hired a registered agent for the LLC in Wyoming, hired a registered agent for the LLC set up in my state that I currently live in that I'm going to try to be doing business in.
Okay. So it's up to you if you want to dissolve your statutory entity or if you want to, maintain it. So a lot of people will decide to keep it intact and maintain it for funding purposes or because it's seasoned already. And some people decide that they don't want those statutory limitations, and so they decide to transition into the trust entity. So honestly, it's up to you, but right now, the way that you're structured, because you don't have your personal name, you're okay. In the event that you have assets in those trusts, I mean, excuse me, if you have assets that are directly owned by those entities, those assets are at risk.
Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, so if you have assets that are owned by those statutory entities, those assets are still at risk.
Okay. So I don't have anything right now that is, because I set this up within the last 2 to 3 weeks, established this in that format. So could I go back in, I guess, and dissolve the LLC, even though I paid, for these registered agents, and then come back through and then set it up and put everything in to generate a trust that is owned by my family trust, make a holding trust, and then a operating trust.
Yes, you
But
can. You can do it that way, and you can even use the same name of the entity that you dissolved.
okay, okay, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. All right. Next we have Kemet. Kemet, are you available? Do you have a question? All right. Next we have
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello?
All right, we can't hear you. Next we have BT.
Okay, hello.
Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
good, Christina. Thank you. I just want to say I took your self-paced boot camp, and
Can
I
you hear
think
me?
that you're amazing and everything you're doing. It's such a
Thank you.
benefit to our community. So I have one quick question and then one that I would just like for you to answer. So the quick question is the templates that you're offering. Those are that's the same like 50-page business, the business documents for the trust that you were discussing. It would be
Yeah,
the same thing?
the templates, yeah. So I mean, every single template is different. So all three trusts are very unique and different, and they have
Try
different
this
pages.
down here. See what that's on down there.
Yeah.
Okay. My other question is for the family asset protection trust. When you mention like paying for the mortgages, tuition, things of that nature. I know they're deductible to the trust as distributions to the beneficiaries, right? And like, will the
So
beneficiaries
whatever,
have to pay
whatever,
tax?
whatever asset, so for example, whatever assets that the family trust owns is a tax deduction to that. So for example, if you have a car and you have car note, car insurance, and gasoline, that is tax deductible to the trust if the trust owns the car.
Okay, got it.
Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Because I was under the impression that anything that was paid,
See
like if
here?
it was a mortgage paid for a family member, then it would be considered a distribution to that family member, and they would have to pay the tax on it. So as long as the house is
So
owned by
that
the family
if
trust,
that's a If that is a beneficiary, yes, that's correct. If that's a beneficiary and you are giving them a distribution and paying for housing.
Okay.
Switched it to the real tech. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you
Yes,
so much.
we can hear you, Kemet. Can you hear us?
Where's Curtis? Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that. I was trying to work out the microphone situation.
Okay, got
Um,
it. What's your
yeah,
question?
I have a question about the IUL.
Yes, sir.
When you first sign up with the IUL, how soon can you start utilizing the cash value? Let's say if I deposited 200,000 in it, can I start borrowing from the carrier right away, or is there like a timeline for when you can start borrowing from that?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So, you can borrow from it right away. You actually have to have cash value in order to borrow. So that means that you have to have put cash in there. And in order for you to start borrowing, you have to have covered your surrender charge. Your surrender charge is something similar to a security deposit. So so you have a surrender charge, let's just say your surrender charge is $2,000. That means that every premium payment, a certain percentage of that premium payment is going to go to cover your surrender charge. Once your surrender charge is paid in full, then all of your premium payments are going to go to the cash value. Nothing else is going to go to the surrender charge because it's already fulfilled. And then at that point, because your surrender charge is fulfilled, you can then borrow. And then the insurance company is going to give you back the surrender charge if you don't cancel your policy within the first year. So that's when you can start borrowing.
Okay. Okay. Um, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a call with you with that number you listed because I don't want to
Yeah.
ask all these questions on here that I
Okay.
have. I have a 508, but I do have a question about really quick about the funding. Is there a upfront deposit for business funding, or do they take a percentage on the back end of that?
So yeah, so we take a percentage on the back end. So we have a whole funding department. They help you from A to Z on establishing the business credit as well as getting you the funding you need. And they take 10% on the back end. So for example, if we get you 100,000 in funding, then on the back end, after you get your 100,000, our fee is 10,000. So it's 10%.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'll just how soon is your bookings? If because I really want to do this right away, and I know other people are in front of me, but how soon if I book an
Um,
appointment with you?
Yeah, I mean, so just give us a call tomorrow, okay? And my team
Okay.
will be able to connect us. And somebody just asked, when is the workshop? Our next workshop is next week. So if you guys are intentional about getting started right away, the next workshop is August 25th to the 29th. The time is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to show up live every single day on Zoom. So if you guys have the time next week to do so, I would tell you to take action now.
Oh,
So, yes,
okay. Thank you. I appreciate you.
you're welcome, Curtis. All right, next we have Marion.
Hello, hi Christina. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. How are you?
Fine, thanks, and yourself.
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
That's good. I was wondering, how do you maintain anonymity if you already have an LLC and transfer it to a business trust? You mentioned that you could remove yourself as an authorized member, but will that track you if you have a LLC already in existence?
Yeah, so you have to understand that there's like something called skip tracing where people are able to see and it depends on the Secretary of State if they show the amendment. So some Secretary of States show that you process an amendment or they showed previous annual reports or they showed the original articles of organization. So they are going to see that you did remove yourself. So we do have extra documentation that we take in order to document that we are not liable for the business and that we actually sold the business, so we're not tied to the business anymore.
Okay, so that would be probably a strategy that I'm no longer. Is there another method? Would it be best to just dissolve it?
Some people decide to dissolve it.
Uh-huh. Okay. Alrighty,
Yes.
so just have some way, some strategy of you said you have documentation that can hide that or where skip tracing won't show it.
So everything's on the public record. So honestly, when you have established an LLC, now you're doing things backwards. Okay. So
Okay.
you're trying to fix and undo what you already did. You're trying to undo your mistakes. So some people do decide to dissolve it and they can start a new LLC fresh and their name never appear on the articles of organization. But then you have others that have already established business credit and funding, and it's not advantageous to dissolve it.
Hmm. So what do you recommend as we move forward if we want to develop a business trust? Just leave that LLC out and just
So
establish.
if you don't have any use for it, dissolve it. If it doesn't make sense not to, then keep it intact and put it into a business trust because if that business is sued, you're liable. So you still want to put it into a business trust if you intend on operating.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, well, that's all that I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Next we have Anisha. An is it
Anita,
Anita? Anita.
Anita.
Okay. Anita.
Um, my question is, I want to come on, but I don't know if I'll be available for the hours 11 to 2. So, is it always 11 to 2?
It is always 11 to 2 and it is recorded too. So if you miss like one or two of the hours in the session, you can go back to the recordings. And then you do have lifetime access to the recordings as well and to the workshop. So once you enroll into the workshop, you can attend any and all workshops. So meaning the one we have next week, meaning the one we have at the end of September, the end of October, November, December, January, every single workshop you'll have access to.
Okay, but what if I have questions? Is there somebody I can,
I
um,
will answer your questions. That's what I'm here for. So I answer them on the spot. If you're not live, you can book a call with me. If you're not able to, then you can email, you can text. So there's so many different ways. You can put it in the Telegram chat. There's multiple different ways.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next we have Tony. Tony, do you have a question? Tony, are you still available? I see you have your hand up. All right, so somebody asked, do you work with crypto as an asset? Yeah, we have a lot of big crypto heads with seven-figure portfolios, and the best thing for you to do is to house it into a trust. So you can put, if you have like a ledger wallet or something, you can assign that wallet to the trust. If you have it on an exchange like Coinbase, then you'll be able to, you can switch it into the name of your trust versus it being in your personal name. Somebody asked about the recordings. So the recordings are available um, on YouTube. So I'm gonna put the link inside the chat for you guys right now to the recordings, just in case you guys want to watch the recording again. 1 second here.
May I ask you a question, Miss Yvette, or do I need to raise my hand?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Um, on the recordings, are the and do you record the questions and answer sessions also, or just the meat of the, what you spoke about?
Yeah, the Q&A session is also
Yeah, that's the
recorded.
word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Everything is recorded.
Okay,
Yep,
okay,
yep. So, yep, the entire thing from the start to the end.
okay, thank you. Did you
Yeah.
mention something about a particular program? Because I'm sorry, I had to step away for a minute, and I think I might have missed, because I know one of the young ladies was just asking you about 11 to 2. And is that the time? I mean, is that some type of program that you're offering that,
Yeah, so that's the workshop where we
yeah,
show up live. So on the workshop, we're able to do it together. So that is the middle tier where you can show up on Zoom Monday through Friday from 11 to 2. It starts next week. It is $2,500 and you do get lifetime access to it. And we show you how to set up all three of your trusts. And if you enroll in the next 24 hours, then you get that 20% discount using that discount code Trust20. So that's what she was referring to.
okay. And do you all have an affiliate program?
We do. We have an affiliate program. So with the affiliate program, it should be in the chat. Hold on, let me see.
Okay.
Um, Ivy, can you drop the affiliate link? Do you have that?
Because I think I went to that the last time I was on one of your calls.
Let me send.
Okay, someone said, how do I lower my W-2 taxes using the trust? So you can donate up to 60% of your W-2 income to the trust. So that's one strategy that we use. We have our own team of CPAs once you get into the program, and they'll be able to assist you with your unique structure as well. Um, Microphone. All right.
Thank you for your answering.
You're so welcome. All right. Let me see here. Someone's saying, wouldn't it be better to not be the trustee and to be the trust protector if you get sued? So if you get sued, you are not the trust is not you. So if you get sued, they can't come after the trust. If the trust gets sued, they can't come after you. So for you to maintain control, you do want to be the trustee. So someone asked, how do you go about deciding on the trust grantor? So initially you want to choose someone who is at arm's length. So someone that you're not related to. So it could be a friend, a coworker, it could be, a neighbor. If you are not able to find a grantor at arm's length, then you can use like a distant relative. And then we also have a directory in our community. So I told you we have over 1,200 people in our community. So some of them have volunteered to serve as grantors. So you can tap into our community if you need help with a grantor or any other positions in your trust. All right, guys. I think that is it for tonight.
Hey, Christina, quick,
Yes.
just one more quick question. With that $200 deposit, um, what would be like, kind of like approximately like, what would be the monthly like payments if you put down the 200
Oh,
deposit?
you can customize it. So if you want a custom payment plan, then put the $200 deposit and let us know what you want to pay and how often you want to pay, and we will set it up.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Beverly?
The 2,500 I think you mentioned, does that include, I know you said you would help with doing the 3 trusts, but does that include the price of the trust and all that?
Yes, yes. So it includes all 3 of the trusts that we had mentioned, the business trust, the family trust, and the nonprofit trust.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there a way to do a living trust?
We don't have living trusts in our program, so all of our trusts are irrevocable for
Irrevocable.
the highest asset protection, because living trusts can actually end up in probate sometimes if the beneficiaries contest the living trust, and also your assets are not protected with the living trust at all.
Okay. I thought they said it was protected. I mean, as far as keeping you, like while you're still living. I mean, if that makes sense, but
So the living trust only helps you avoid probate, and that's only if beneficiaries do not contest.
oh, okay. I get so confused with this trust. Every time I think I got it, I don't have it. Thank you.
Yeah. So
So,
someone asked about the book list. So it's The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, Family Wealth, What Would the Rockefellers Do, and The Complete Book of Trust.
So Christina, the family trust is a little bit better than the living trust.
Yeah, so your assets are going to be fully protected with the family trust because it's irrevocable.
Okay, what if you don't have any like kids or anything to put in the family trust as beneficiaries?
So you can make another trust the beneficiary, or you just have to think about who would you want to place, who would you want to receive your assets. So if some people don't have children, and so they'll put a parent or a sibling, or they'll just have another trust be the beneficiary.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So that is it for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys holding on. I just want to say that just take action on the information that I provided tonight, because it's so vitally important, because you guys are going to be changing the trajectory of your family and your kids' kids. And now you're going to be raising them as trustees, and not, traditionally as regular people. So it's time to build generational wealth, and it's time to build your legacy. And I will be honored to help you throughout this journey. So you guys have a blessed and amazing rest of your evening. And once again, visit the website, wealthytrustee.com. Use the discount code TRUST20. And our workshop is next week. So we're hitting the ground running Monday through Friday of next week from 11 to 2 EST. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
thank you
Good
very
evening.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome.